Thank you all so much for being here. Congratulations on a fantastic second season. This is an audience of your fellow actors.
Hi.
So I always like to start sort of by asking about your origin stories. What do you sort of consider your first job as a professional actor, whether you were paid for it or not?
Well, the first job I did to get my equity card, which is the UK Actors Union, was a Punch and Judy show.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I did a Punch and Judy show in a few different
so
venues.
Cool.
It's so ridiculous. It's not. It's like the opposite of cool.
No, but that's like classy. Out here, it's usually like a Doritos commercial. So.
Yeah. No, I think I was working in a job center, and I had sort of no clue how to break into the industry, but I was convinced that I had to get an equity card, and that was going to be the start of everything. So,
and it was.
Yeah.
Technically,
sort of. 10 years after that, though. Yeah.
Sarah, for you,
I started in theatre in pantomime, my first job.
Oh God!
Oh no,
so
you
did the
didn't.
same.
Little Red Riding Hood. I was Little Red Riding Hood.
Barry, for you,
I was a 13-year-old and I was street cast by Michael Winterbottom for a...
What?
Serious?
That's a much better story than
No.
Punch and Judy.
How does that happen?
I was just a regular student and had no interest or experience in acting, like not even having done a school play. And BBC were casting this 4-part drama. It was like social realism, 4 parts on a dysfunctional working class family, amongst whom was a 13-year-old boy. So there aren't many 13-year-old actors. So they cast the net wide and visited loads of schools around the rougher edges of Dublin. And after a long series of auditions, they offered me the job.
Wow. But
I've been doing it since then.
at some point you had to, decide this wasn't a one-off and you wanted to do it for a career. Did you fall in love with it?
I distinctly remember having the thought that this is a really easy way to make a lot of money.
So yes.
Yeah, and then I tried to get more work.
Yeah.
All the Coke and sweets you could have bought with that.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Again, it all comes back to craft services.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was probably when I was about 20 that I decided that it was something that I wanted to do.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Thaddea, for you?
My first professional job was out of uni or drama school, and it was for Sky, and it was a show that was set over the course of one night. So we shot the entire thing on night shoots. So I thought that's how you just made TV, like at nighttime. So anytime we do a night shoot now, I'm like, oh, it's really fun. Most people hate night shoots, but I find it's really fond memory. Yeah,
Really?
like I know how to do this.
I've never met anyone who likes night shoots.
I love them. Maybe I'm just sick.
Crazy. Fiona, for you?
I went to drama school and then I was put into the National Theatre. But at that time, you weren't allowed to be in the National Theatre unless you'd done 365 days in another place. So I lived under a cloud. I was absolutely terrified that somebody was going to find out. And I used to lose sleep over it. Of course, they changed the rule a year later that you didn't have to do that. But the first year, I was absolutely terrified. Whenever they said, would you like to come up to the office, I'd go,
What were some of the shows you started out in there?
It was The Rivals with Geraldine McEwen
Oh,
and
how
Tim Curry and Edward Petherbridge, all those lovely actors. They were great.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing. And you didn't get fired?
I didn't get fired. No, Anne-Louise Lambert, do you remember the
Yes.
Picnic at Hanging Rock? She was in it.
Yes.
It was an amazing cast. So I was undaunted the whole time, but really terrified. I remember how uncomfortable it was.
Oh, that's fantastic. Not the
Cheating.
terrifying part. Well, again, congratulations on season 2. Season 1 was such a massive success, both critically and commercially. And I feel like obviously one of the reasons is this ensemble that you've created, the Garvey sisters and this family. Going back to that, how did you sort of create, that core family and those other cast members? I mean, chemistry is such a strange thing.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I had we'd sort of worked together before, and Sarah did a show for Merman called Frank of Ireland. I don't know if you've seen it. It was on Amazon. She's hilarious in it. Mm-hmm. So I was a huge fan, and Eva Berthasel had done a show for me called The Circa, and Anne-Marie I hadn't worked with, but I'd, watched and admired her for years. And so I just reached out to you all and asked, would you do it? And Eve Hewson very kindly auditioned. Because I had seen her work and thought she was great, but she hadn't done any comedy, and I mean, she's such a funny, really funny actress. But so she came in and did a couple of auditions for us. But the chemistry thing is, I guess that was just like a hope, hope and a prayer. But I mean, I had a really good feeling about it, but you just never know until everyone's in the room together. But Dervla worked really hard to.
This is the
Dervla Walsh, our director, the main series director on both series. She worked really hard to just, bring us all together, take us out to dinner, bring us swimming, just get us rehearsing and spending as much time together as possible, because, to really sort of make us feel like a family. And it happened very quickly. And that's just, luck, I think, very, very quickly. It felt very relaxed and easy and sisterly.
Sisterly. And continued throughout.
Yeah.
We love each other.
Love you.
So it was there pretty quickly, because I'm always sort of curious about like what happens if it's not. I mean, I guess that's kind of where acting comes in.
It's hard work.
Hard work. Yeah. And lots of acting, I suppose. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I've ever experienced anything where, you kind of have to rethink your casting. Get fired. But yeah, it's just it's luck, isn't it?
Barry, what was it like for you coming into the second season? We get to learn so much more about your character, but also, trying to crack this sisterhood. I feel, what's it like to be the antagonist on set?
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
One of the first scenes myself and Thaddea had was an interrogation scene. All 5 sisters were present. As is the norm for cop shows, there's a lot of cop speak, so there was a lot of plot stuff that I had to divulge. So it was tough to get to grips with all of the material and then be faced with these 5 seasoned, beautiful pros.
Yeah.
And I got through it, but then Owen, who plays Ian, comes in and I have to introduce myself. Detective Inspector Fergal Loftus, and I couldn't get my name out. It must have been 10 takes.
What did you say? What did you call yourself?
Detector Inspector Fergus.
Detector Inspector. That's great.
It was terrifying, but Sharon kind of broke the ice and said that we are a 5-headed monster, and get used to that. But I think a lot of the times when I read a script, especially in a supporting role, I look at it in terms of functionality. What is his function here? And if it's largely to, provide obstacles for the main cast to overcome. So it's just being as, provocative as I could in some ways.
Yeah, just doing your job. Yeah. Is it ever hard, though? Because the cast does seem so close. When you have to say these horrible things to each other, do you?
No, it's so enjoyable. That's the best bit.
Although I did find it pretty upsetting this season. 'Cause this season was emotional for a load of reasons. But, we're dealing with loss and grief. And, we had one episode, I think it was episode 6, where you were telling me to bury my feelings like I just did my sister. And you were so brutal with me. And it was, sort of shocking and awful.
I enjoyed it. I repeat.
Wow.
I actually want to come back to that, because that is, I'm so fascinated about sort of putting yourself through these traumas as actors. But I want to talk to Thaddea and Fiona about joining the show in the second season. Coming into this already established family. What was sort of that experience like?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I said to Barry on the first day, I was like, oh, great. Okay, he's done season 1. He knows how this works. I'll cling to him. And I told him this, and he went, I only did 1 day on season 1. I saw all of my scenes on 1 day, and I was like, oh,
It's just 1 day.
I've backed the wrong horse.
I thought it was 2.
But it was very scary. But that first scene when the 5 of them were stood there, and I was saying earlier, I was like, I couldn't even look Sharon in the eye. I was so I was like, that's Sharon Horgan, holy shit. And then you kind of, I don't know, I suppose you realise that we're all just people. We're all gunning towards the same goal. And I think fear can be a good thing as long as it doesn't dictate your entire being. And that those first few days, the fear definitely was dictating it. And I was so stiff and I was so frightened, and I was like, oh shit, okay. And just kind of remembering to breathe. And once you relax and you open yourself up to it and let whatever happens, it can be the most formative experience. And I learned so much on this job because of that. And the girls especially, they taught me kind of that we all have a voice and you can use it. Nobody else's voice is like yours. And they kind of encouraged me to use it. And that if you're asked a question, it's not just to be polite. It is, we want to know what you think.
Yeah,
so
I remember you saying that
Yeah.
to me. You felt like you didn't believe that they were actual questions.
Yes,
Like,
I came back to
we want your
one day.
yeah, we want to
Yeah.
know what you're feeling and thinking, and like want to bring to the
Yeah.
scene. But you thought we were just like
being nice.
being nice. Like, she told me this way after we'd wrapped.
Yeah.
She just thought everyone was asking rhetorical questions the
Yeah.
whole time.
I was like, oh, that's the same as just being like, hello. I didn't think that it mattered. And so they showed me that. And I think that is probably one of the biggest gifts anybody could ever give you.
It's funny you talk about, like, being a little intimidated and looking around and seeing these people. Fiona, are you aware when you're on a set that everyone's going, holy shit, that's Fiona Shaw? You sort of...
She is when all the actors give her a round of applause after which we did. Thank you. One day.
Now I'm beginning to feel it. But I remember somebody saying to me, in the end, even Sharon, writing it and producing it and acting in it could be a very daunting thing. But in the end, the show is the master, and we all serve that. And I remember the first read through we had, which was quite soon after I'd been asked to join them. And I remember Derva saying, and Monday week, we'll all be shooting this. I thought, I can't believe this is going to happen. We were just meeting for that read-through. But already at the read-through, I had nothing to do with these two, and they were hilarious. So I was watching every bit that they were doing because I knew I'd never see them again. But I think it's the show is, when you know that the show is the master, then everybody's serving that. Really.
At this point in your career, are you still learning new things about acting?
Sound like I'm not dying,
Oh, you haven't heard.
I think Derva was saying she's working on something else at the moment, of course, with Thaddea, and how hard you think it's going to be easy. As you all know, it's never the next thing is impossible, and nothing is ever the same. Never the same. So it's always
It's just that's so true. It really is.
You were talking earlier about some of the really challenging scenes that you had to go through this season. I'm sort of curious, not only how you prepare for those scenes, but are you the kind of actors that take your work home with you? Are you able to leave that behind at the end of the day?
Depending on the job
Yeah.
and the character, I suppose.
I can't sleep the night before. I find it very hard.
Really?
Particularly if it's funny. Oddly, and it's very bad for you because if you can relax, it's much better. But I love doing it. But actually, the night before, I'm always very nervous. Yeah,
I know with this series, because there was, like I was saying, there's a lot of emotions that the characters went through. There's, we're dealing with grief and loss, and I remember a few times going home afterwards, going, this job is mental. To put yourself through that repeatedly throughout the day, over and over, to really feel it. I wouldn't say I take it home and that I keep thinking about it, but my body and brain would feel destroyed by it.
I mean, you're traumatizing yourself over and over.
And your body doesn't realize that.
Nope, doesn't know the difference. Does anyone have a way to like decompress or put that behind them at the end of the day?
wine.
The pub.
Yep.
Why are you
Go
laughing?
home to your kids, because your kids don't give a shit.
Right.
What
Kids
you've
are the
been
great
through,
equalizer. If you don't have kids, have kids. That's the answer. the show is, it's so funny, and it also has these heart-wrenching scenes, and it's so beautifully done. Finding the tone is got to be tricky because it walks such a fine balance. Obviously, that starts with the writing and the directing. As actors, do you like to do scenes multiple ways, or do you go in with sort of one idea? Are you open to change?
Oh, I love notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have an idea and your instincts are good, but I love getting a note from a director because you get out of your head, and also just being open to being spontaneous to what the other actor is bringing to the scene. You know, we're lucky, like sitting watching those women every day be absolutely hilarious. You're constantly surprised, so you can never go in with a rigid way of like, well, I'm going to perform it like this, because I think you just fall flat on your arse.
What about for the rest of you? I mean, how do you sort of know if you're hitting the right tone, or do you not know until you see the final product?
I'm still not sure I hit it. So I don't know I don't know. I never feel 100% like, yeah, I nailed that.
I'm always amazed because Barry, you say the same thing. Like you are never sure if you've nailed it or not. And I mean, I'm not saying that when I've finished a scene, I walk away, pat myself on the back, but you usually, I feel like, have a good idea whether you've sort of captured what needs to be captured. But I've heard so many actors now say that they don't, and still, and even when they're watching it, when it's all done, they're like, I don't know if I shouldn't have done that. I'm like, no, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Does it change for you, Sharon, when you're on a job only as an actor? Because you have the
actually, you're right. It does. God,
you know what you need, so
yeah, because I just finished a job as an actor, and anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's much harder to have, I guess, perspective on it when you're not like watching rushes every night and that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
It's an unusual show. I couldn't say it was a comedy, and I couldn't say it was a tragedy. I think it's a brilliantly problematical, identity as a show. And I think it's really, what I found when we were doing it was that the things that were written in that you think are funny, they are funny. You could make them funny, or you choose to not make them funny and see what else is funny. And I felt that happened again and again, that if you didn't make the thing that was meant to be funny, you got to somewhere else. But it's very well written,
But it's very well cast, actually. Like all of the actors involved in the show are brilliant at both. They're equally good dramatically and comedically, and I do think that's unusual. And also to be able to turn on a dime, to be in a scene that's dramatic and then have to do this stupid thing or say a line that's there, to capture, the absurdity of the moment or whatever. And you need to be really flexible to do that. You need to have a lot of moves. And so we're really lucky with the cast and across the board, the main players and then even the smallest parts are helped by that. Yeah.
For each of you, what's the biggest challenge of playing this character? I had to wear an eye patch last week, and I kept bumping into things. I don't know how, I don't know.
Fun? For leisure? Or
Honestly, this is the worst answer ever. It was for therapy. Yes.
pirate therapy?
Yes. No, my therapist asked me to get an iPad. Why am I telling you all this?
You should leave her.
She asked me to get an eye patch because it's like an EMDR thing. I don't totally understand, but it was really hard to find an eye patch at the pharmacy. Yeah. So yeah. But anyway, I really respect your work because now I know how hard it is.
It was really affected by it, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember season 1, my very first shot, first shot was Sharon pulled up in the car. We're going up to stake out the cabin. And so Derville was like, okay, I have this move. You're going to come out. You're ready to go. You've got your backpack. The top is down in the car. You throw your backpack and you hop in. And I threw the backpack and hit the cameraman. I tried to get it. I scratched all the Audi, the car. Yeah, it was a learning curve. I was like,
well, your depth perception.
Really hard.
Yeah.
And then there was another shot where I had to we all had to run out of Grace's house. I think it was when we drugged the prick. And we were running out and they were like, God, Sarah, where are you going? And I was like, what? They were like, watch this back. And everyone's running in a straight line and I'm over here.
so funny.
Yeah, so I had to like.
I
think.
don't remember
Yeah,
that.
it's really hard. Yeah.
For the rest of you?
Eye patches.
Yes.
No, I found being grumpy all the time and having to play grumpy exhausting.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
not a good place for anybody to be in real
I
life.
enjoyed it.
Why would anyone choose to be like that?
Yeah. Thaddea?
So what was the question? I was focused in on the eye patch.
I know, right? Let's talk about eye patches. Yeah. Have you ever worn an eye patch for?
No, never. Maybe one day.
No, it's about the biggest challenge of your character.
Ooh, that she's really annoying. And just constantly kind of just putting her foot in it, even though the integrity and the morals are right, and often what she's saying is right.
Yeah.
Constantly being looked at like, would you shut up? the general feeling of please just go away. I was kind of like, is that real? Are you acting? Please tell me you're acting. So yeah,
Do you like me? Yeah.
please somebody tell me that I'm doing a good job and you like me.
Fiona, I mean, talk about eye patches. You have a neck brace. You have gash on your face.
Yeah, I think the most difficult thing was I really understood that character. And I just think she so wanted to be liked by those people, and they so didn't like her. And I think it's a bit like being the actress in the show. I really hope that they'll keep me in the show. So it was, there's a kind of yearning in it. I really liked that.
Yeah. What about for you as an actor? What was the biggest challenge? Not taking into consideration the producing and the writing challenges and everything else.
Gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something in particular. I mean, I find it a challenge to switch off, and I always feel like I sort of forget that I have to do the acting bit. That I'm sort of, and it's the same with any show. I kind of write it, and then you're right up until the last minute. You're just thinking about everything else. I always feel like under prepped and then pissed off with myself, that I didn't just allow myself to enough time to really think about it. But yeah, I think in this one, I in this season, my character makes some terrible choices, and it's sort of getting on board with why she would have done that, and sort of understanding it and forgiving it, and sort of. I felt like a really weak woman, and I hated feeling like that. And also I had to, she's not like that as a character. But she's had like the worst loss of her life, and she's there's all sorts of reasons why she has this terrible weak moment, but I had to spend a lot of time kind of making sense of that and believing it. But so I'd say that.
I think there's this misconception too. People think, well, you wrote it, so you remember this, and you probably don't even remember the lines by the time you get to it. You have to.
I remember everyone's lines apart from my own.
Do you say them for
No,
them?
no, you can't. It's kind of half there. Everything is kind of half there in your head. But the great thing about having someone like Dervla around is she'll always find, even if you've written it, it doesn't matter. She'll always find. A different angle on it, or something you haven't thought about, or a way of playing it. Because sometimes you feel like, especially if you haven't done the work, you have a little bit of a route one kind of, start to your day. And so having someone who's, full of creative ideas around like her is just, it's amazing.
Because we do have an audience of actors here, I would just sort of love to know. I always like to ask people about the audition process, and it's so fascinating to me that Eve was the only one who auditioned, and but you knew a lot of these actors, and they work so well together. Have you all had those disastrous auditions? Have you made your peace with? I mean, I don't think you have to anymore, but have you sort of made your peace with going into that room? Is there anything you would want people to know that helped you?
Well, I was just talking about this the other day. I feel like the audition process here is so different from in the UK. I think so. I find it a bit brutal here. I find that, you get this, well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you get an opportunity, you go in, you do it, and it's like, okay, goodbye. I feel like we sort of work with the actor a lot more, and in actual fact, even if someone comes in and they're not right, we'll give them another go at it, because something might come out of it, or there's other parts to be cast. Like a lot of the smaller parts in a show, we often end up casting from the people who came in for the, you know, the main roles and supporting roles. And so I think it's always good to remember that as an actor. You know, if it doesn't feel right, you don't get that part. You know, you're remembered if you do a good job. You know, and but yeah, I find it a bit brutal here.
I mean, that's my perception, but then I didn't know this way you're talking about, this whole other way of like working with actors. I heard someone actually say, wow, when you said that.
But it's like that, isn't it? I'm not like
Yeah,
sugarcoating it.
No. It's much more kind of, I don't know, personable. And I think we get more time. I think you get like really short time with scripts, and then you're in the next day, and it just becomes a memory test rather than like, a character exploration that like, this is what I will do if you cast me. And I at home it's a lot of it's about the director and the actor's relationship and whether you can take the note or not. So it's it's much more about like, can we work together rather than how you look or
Yeah, because you change your mind. I mean, as a show, creator or writer, you change your mind about what your character should look like and sound like. I mean, often you end up with someone completely different.
Really?
And sometimes in the casting process for the first season, we ended up with a completely new storyline because we wanted to work with Brian Gleeson, and he was going to be Darryl McCormack's brother, so they had to be half brothers. So we worked out a whole, storyline for them, which made the whole text way richer.
Wow.
So if you're not who you think the writer or director has in mind, then kind of it doesn't matter all the time.
This sounds magical. Can we all move there? Yes. Yeah, exactly. I didn't.
It is
say
anyway, isn't it?
What about for the rest of you? Did you sort of have to, it obviously doesn't sound as traumatic, but did you have any, helpful advice in that room?
It's an awful experience auditioning.
Thank you.
And it feels so far removed from the actual job. Should you get it, it's a very different environment, and it's like being, tested on your swimming capabilities, and then you get the job and you're given a bike to ride. It makes very little sense. But I remember, I think it was Bryan Cranston might have said it about, not going into the room thinking I need to book this job, and that's not your end game or your main objective, but rather these people have a problem to solve, that is casting this role, and you're coming in to help them solve that problem. So even if you don't get the job, you're giving it your best shot and showing them alternative ways of playing that part. And I know from experience, coming out of a room having felt like you've worked with these people for however short a period of time, you'll walk out of there much happier, regardless of whether the job goes your way or not.
Really true.
Anyone else?
I think actually opposite to you, I love auditioning.
What?
Yeah.
And night shoots? Who are you?
I know.
Masochist.
I think, our process sounds different to you guys here, but in the UK, like when you go in, I love meeting new people and kind of just working that part of your brain, because I love being directed. I love getting notes. And so when you go in, you're like, oh, I've got this idea. And then someone says, actually, can we try it like this? It's like, oh, can I try it like that? Let me try. Yeah. And it's working that muscle. And I find it really enjoyable to even get to spend a little bit of time with all these different characters, all these different worlds. And I think it's a real privilege to see that part of a project, and then to see whether or not you are part of it, to see where it goes and see how it's changed and how it's developed. And yeah, I really enjoy it.
Fiona, I don't think you auditioned for this part. Can you imagine?
No, I haven't auditioned for a long time, partially because I don't like doing it.
Really?
I agree entirely with Barry said. I don't see the point.
Really? Is there a better way to do it? I've been trying to...
I mean, there is a point, and of course it's very... And of course I have auditioned here, and it's fantastic when you come, when you're sitting in a room, and we've all probably done this, and you can't believe you're with all these people, and you think, God, they're all very different. And then you overhear somebody inside going, yes, oh, that was wonderful, wonderful. And you see them coming out going, goodbye. So you think, I haven't a hope in hell. I don't know anybody in there. Of course, it's all an act, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know, that person may not get the job either. You just don't know.
There's another thing that they do at home, which I think is very clever in that, say they are auditioning 5 women for the same part, they'll break them up during the day. So they'll see me in the morning, then they might see Barry for a role, then Thaddea for a role, then Fiona for a role. So you're not crossing over with your competition.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it doesn't unnerve you.
Oh yeah, that's not. And here you walk in and
Really
you
thoughtful.
see. Yeah, you see 20 versions of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knock your confidence. Yeah.
Well, again, I want to thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on a great second season. All the episodes are now streaming on Apple TV Plus. Thank you for being a great audience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.